Kia ora, good evening, I'm Simon Henderson. Sparks were flying in Green Island recently after a vehicle crash caused havoc for residents. More than 1,000 households were left without power after a large truck took out a power pole. But the response of one witness may have saved the driver's life.
Power lines sprawled across the street after one wrong turn left Green Island in the dark. Large parts of the Dunedin suburb were left without power for around 3 hours after a truck crashed into a power pole on Main South Road at around 3:15 on Thursday afternoon. Witness Warren Gray says he saw the truck cutting the corner a little too close before striking the pole. That sent sparks flying as power lines were ripped down. He then rushed over to speak to the driver.
Ran down, told him to stay in his truck because when you see the size of the cable sitting on his truck, not a good idea to try and get out of it.
Luckily, no one was injured in the accident, but police closed off the road and put a diversion in place. Electricity operator Delta responded quickly to the situation, isolating power in the surrounding area so the clean-up operation could begin.
Culled the area very quickly. They've turned everything off. I'm led to believe that from here for about 5 blocks south of the accident, it's all just dead. So yeah, they've done very well there.
Aurora Energy says around 1,100 homes were left without power following the crash, but electricity was restored to nearly all customers by 6 p.m. In Dunedin, the South Today.
With COVID-19 cases back on the rise, a government agency is travelling the country in an effort to be better prepared for a health crisis. The Royal Commission of Inquiry made its way to Queenstown earlier this week to see how the tourism centre responded to the lockdowns and how it can be done better.
Working to become one step ahead of the next pandemic, the Royal Commission of Inquiry is visiting Queenstown this month to reflect on New Zealand's COVID-19 response. Commissioners Tom Blakely, Hekia Parata and John Whitehead were appointed last December to look at lessons learnt, including during the nationwide lockdown in 2020. Whitehead has been listening to the experiences of Queenstown businesses during the pandemic, using that feedback to compare the migrant worker dependent town to the rest of the country.
People are coming up with lots of very sensible approaches and learnings that they've gathered through the process. Both from things that went really well and things that didn't go well.
Yeah. The Commission's looking to better prepare Aotearoa's business and health sectors for what they believe is the next inevitable public health crisis.
Yeah, the viruses keep mutating and there's other forms of pathogens and, you never know one of these days, people use these kind of things as weapons.
And while individual discussions with businesses are confidential, the collective information will be used to improve the country's approach in a future health crisis, including the unique issues of tourist hotspots like central Otago. In Queenstown, the South Today.
After serving the Southland community for over a century, an iconic department store has said goodbye. Staff and loyal customers had one last walk through H&J Smith recently as they looked back on fond memories they'd created in the store.
A send-off fit for a king. The Southland community gathering to say their final goodbyes to their beloved department store. Tears were flowing in Invercargill as the iconic H&J Smith closed their doors on Saturday afternoon for the final time. A ceremony was held to commemorate the 123 years of service from the long-standing store, the final dance leaving CEO John Green feeling some mixed emotions.
It's a mix of relief, sadness, achievement, satisfaction, I think, for the team of a job well done.
However, reflecting back made him feel proud of what the company had achieved and the unique experience it has always provided for their loyal customers.
Instead, I think we've turned it into celebration. We've never talked about closing down. We've talked about calling time, and that's what it is.
A number of long-standing staff were left quite emotional saying goodbye to their workplace, but look back fondly on the relationships they formed with co-workers and customers.
With that emotion will come the memories and the good memories of our friendships, our fellow staff members that we will miss.
The final deals for H&J saw stock flying off the shelf, with shoppers coming from as far as Australia to score themselves one last bargain. All leftover stock will be donated to charity, with the remaining uniforms being sent to their respective schools. In Invercargill, the South Today.
The view atop some southern hills now looks a bit different as a new wind farm has set up shop. The Kaiwera Downs wind farm hit a big milestone recently, opening 10 wind turbines more than 100 metres tall.
Bringing renewable energy to Southland seemed to be a giant task. However, stage 1 of Mercury's Kaiwera Downs wind farm was commissioned on Monday, with a ribbon-cutting ceremony to open 10 145-metre tall wind turbines. Gore District Mayor Ben Bell says it was great to see the wind farm come to life, reminiscing on the sod turning for the site, which was his first duty as mayor a year ago.
For it to be completed in a year and also under budget is nothing short of really a miracle with the current climate. And I did have to ask whether any of the tradies actually got any smokos over that time.
The wind farm came in under its $110 million budget, leaving Mercury Energy CEO Vince Hawksworth proud of his team's efforts.
Not so long ago, Mercury opened its Tulatea wind farm in the Tararuas. We couldn't see the wind turbines for the rain, and so it's great to have some beautiful Southland sun for this event.
The Kaiwera Downs wind farm can generate enough energy to power 20,000 homes. A decision on stage 2 of the project is set to be made by the middle of next year. In Kaiwera, the South Today.
There was a traffic jam on the scenic route out of Dunedin on Wednesday as a special visitor decided the road was comfy enough for a nap. Jem, the local sea lion, has settled into her new summer home, shacking up in a Brighton backyard where she has found herself some peace and quiet.
A long way from the coastline, this sea lion is making herself at home. 17-year-old sea lion Jem decided to head inland from the sea on Wednesday morning, causing a commotion by crossing Tidy Mouth Road. A local disrupted her nap in the middle of the road, herding her into a nearby property, where Jem decided to park up, settling into the Brighton backyard for a good reason.
As you'll see here, Jem is pregnant and come early January she'll be having another pup, so they're looking for a bit of peace and quiet.
The property owner was excited to have wildlife come so close to her home, especially when it's a celebrity. Jem is a direct descendant of the famous sea lion matriarch Mum, who was the first sea lion to give birth in the city in over 300 years. The Dunedin City Council put up road signs asking motorists to take care in the area, with wildlife being very vulnerable along the 100km/h road.
Really need to know that people are slowing down when they see those signs, because it would be tragic to lose Jem and her future pup.
Jem is likely to spend the next 6 weeks nesting on the property as she prepares to give birth on the 30th anniversary of Mum famously having her first pup. In Dunedin, the South Today.
E whai Akane, still to come on Southern Newsweek. Southern businesses' success was celebrated in style for a prestigious annual awards night in Dunedin. And Queenstown played host to one of the most picturesque running races in the world with a record-breaking finisher. Welcome back. Southern businesses celebrated their success in Dunedin recently, shining a spotlight on some outstanding achievements in a glamorous fashion. This year's Grand Business South Awards had a record number of entries, leaving judges impressed by the increasing quality of applications.
Businesses across the South celebrating a night of success at this year's Grand Business South Awards. Invited guests made their way to the Dunedin Edgar Centre on Friday night, enjoying a number of performances with some food and drinks at the annual gala dinner. A record number of more than 40 entrants made the shortlist, vying for honours across 15 different award categories. And Lab Supply were among the winners on the night, taking home the Excellence in Retail Award.
I think it just really acknowledges the hard work of our team and the support of our customers, and it's just we're all delighted to be here, and our whole team's here this evening to celebrate, which actually makes it even more exciting.
Invercargill's Great South won the Business Sustainability category. Even though they warmly welcomed the award, staff were just glad to see the different achievements across the region being celebrated at the premier event.
It really does provide a credible acknowledgement of the work that's happening in the South.
Organisers say the Grand Business South Awards are used to highlight business excellence and share inspiring stories, hoping they can continue empowering economic growth and development across the South. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Eager runners from across the world descended on central Otago recently to participate in this year's Queenstown Marathon, and one athlete put on a record-breaking effort, crossing the finish line with a few minutes to spare.
Stretching out the last few nerves before lining up to get the race into action. Around 14,000 runners and walkers from around the world gathered in Queenstown on Saturday, hitting the ground running for the town's 9th annual marathon event.
I'm Claire from Melbourne. Emma, Melbourne.
Alex, Melbourne.
I'm Riley and I'm from Hawke's Bay.
I'm Tori and I'm from Wanganui.
Fans and support crews got into the spirit along the way, erupting into cheers as athletes crossed the line and received their medals for finishing the gruelling run. While many came to challenge themselves and get new personal bests, these two Australian visitors took on the event to enjoy the resort town views.
I bought this for him for his 60th birthday, so I bought him an entry in the 21k in Queenstown, most beautiful marathon in the world. I thought that sounds like a great 60th birthday present.
Frankton volunteer firefighter Jamie Harris has now finished his second marathon in his full firefighter gear, raising money for a cause close to his heart.
So just creating awareness in that leukaemia blood cancer window, because my sister's just been diagnosed, and a lot of people know that I'm the stair climbing fundraising firefighter, so what better than to run into town before this one.
New Zealand's Daniel Jones and UK's Hannah Oldroyd have now made it back-to-back wins. Oldroyd took out the competition in the women's division, finishing the 42.2 kilometre run in 2 hours and 49 minutes, 8 minutes ahead of her closest competitor. In Queenstown, the South Today.
Native wildlife may now be able to thrive in central Otago as a strip of new traps offers up a layer of protection. An unlikely duo of hunters and conservationists got together recently to celebrate the start of their success as they look to increase numbers of some endangered species.
Guarding the valley, these wooden boxes have already begun to prove their worth. Deer hunters and government conservationists gathered in the Landsborough Valley on Saturday to celebrate the success of 65 new predator traps installed last month. The project has been more than a year in the making, the trap line aiming to reduce predator numbers in the area between Makarora and Haast.
So if we can slow them down on their way into the valley, it'll really help kind of boost the native birds and bring them further down the valley.
And it seems the 12.5 kilometre stretch of traps are doing their job, as volunteers have already uncovered dozens of stoats, rats and mice in the wooden boxes. DOC, New Zealand Deerstalkers Association and Fulton Hogan have teamed up for the project, collaborating to reach their joint goal of sustainability.
We're a company, we've been in business for 90 years, we want to be here for another 90 years. We can only do that if we're a sustainable business and if we help our local community and the environment around us to be sustainable as well.
But the traps aren't the only new addition to the area, with the Landsborough hut getting a revamp as 2 years of upgrades are finally complete.
It's affectionately known as the No Star Hotel. As hunters' huts go, it's pretty damn good.
Members of NZDA will be responsible for clearing the traps on a monthly basis. Central Otago President Reid Gear hopes the project encourages more young people to join their ranks, so the future generation still appreciate the outdoors. In Landsborough Valley, the South Today.
Christchurch's popular Wilston Brass Band have said farewell to a place they've called home for over a century. The historic band's earthquake-damaged room is being demolished in January, making way for a brand new community arts hub.
Brass is taking over this Christchurch street as fans enjoy the free Wilston Brass Band Street concert. The special one-off informal performance in collaboration with Jolt Dance was held as a farewell to the band's home of 132 years, which is being demolished in January. The earthquake-damaged Dampier Street Band Room is set to be replaced by a brand new $3 million purpose-built community and arts hub.
We've got about 1.3 at this stage, but so we're prepared to sort of start and get 6 months through, but it's really to kind of give some other funders a bit more confidence that the project's going to happen and we can take it to a successful end.
Turner says while it may not be the prettiest of buildings, it holds a lot of history for the band.
We will miss it. It's got lots of memories and lots of stuff's happened and you know, lots of amazing musicians have come through this place.
Woolston Brass will be moving to a temporary site in Addington during the Community Hub's 1-year build process to house their number of successful bands.
We've got 3 bands, so we've got a junior band that has about 45 kids in it, an intermediate sort of band which is a mix of older people and kids, that's about 30, and then we've got about 35 in the senior band.
The organisation collaborates with local schools to run its very successful Woolston Brass Academy education program. Turner says while Louis Armstrong might not return, the rebuild will help ensure the next generation of musicians coming through will get to practice in a first-class facility. In Christchurch, the South today.
Whai Akane, still to come on Southern Newsweek. The world of hobbies and gaming has shifted gears in South Dunedin. And a North Otago town has taken a step back in time, filling the streets with activities and costumes from the Victorian era. Welcome back. The world of hobbies and gaming came to life in Dunedin recently as the doors to a new trading card shop opened to the public. Generations of tabletop wargaming fans were expected to discover what was on offer, with the store choosing a very visible site.
Setting up the final pieces of this tabletop board as staff at new Dunedin trading card store Hobby Lords prepare for their opening event at their new site. It's aiming to be a community hub for gaming enthusiasts, with players of all ages invited to the shop's relaunch event on Friday night after moving from inside the South City Mall. Hobby Lords director Liam O'Neill says it's taken a year and a half of planning, but was grateful for the help of some regular customers.
Just on Monday, we had 4 staff in here helping move, and then we had about 14, 15 people show up, just regulars, people, part of the community that came in just to help us move, to unpack, to clean up.
O'Neill says the Tabletop Trading Cards new store on King Edward Street can host around 70 players, which should make it a great location for future events. And while the games are for fun, he believes some can actually help children who've fallen a little behind in school with their literacy and numeracy skills.
A lot of the games have math and reading. Kids get really engaged in that. When it's Pokemon, and it's a big fad around town, they get super engaged, and the feedback we get is that the parents love it just because the kids are just, within a month or 2, they're caught up.
O'Neill was promising prizes and giveaways of rare items at the launch event, and is keen to give back to the community that supported the team through their journey. In Dunedin, the South today.
Extravagant costumes and vintage vehicles paraded through Oamaru recently as the town hosted its annual Victorian Fete. Despite downsizing, the 5-day event still managed to draw a great crowd, raising money to help maintain the town's vintage look.
The Oamaru Victorian Fete may now be smaller in stature, but it's still big in the heart, with local residents believing it's still hitting the mark. Harbour Street was buzzing with live music and performances on Sunday, as event goers dressed for the era to finish up the Victorian Heritage Celebrations Festival. Organiser Michelle Harrison says this year's celebrations are special, as the Oamaru Whitestone Civic Trust marks its 35th birthday.
Instead of having a cover charge, we've made it free for all our community to come down and enjoy. Entertainment all day, stone soaring, and lots of beautiful costumes to be seen.
The 5 days saw different events hosted throughout the week, with hundreds making their way to the town for the Grand Street Parade on Saturday. The annual Victorian Fete acts as the main fundraiser for the maintenance of the heritage buildings, which keeps the aesthetic of Oamaru going.
We're taking this as an opportunity to use it to educate everybody that we have put a lot of time, energy and passion into restoring these buildings.
The new One Street set for the event was put in place to keep the money earned local. Harrison believes the changes were really well received by festival goers. In Oamaru, the South today.
A rare endangered species of fish may now have a saving grace as a pair of farmers look to protect their waterways. Aotearoa's first private galaxid sanctuary has opened up in central Otago with the aim of helping conserve the tiny water creatures.
Conservationists young and old proving the rain won't dampen their mood. Around 50 people attended the opening of the Speck Creek Galaxid Sanctuary in Kyburn on Friday, which is the first of its kind in the country. The stream runs through the properties of local farmers Phil Smith and Hamish McKenzie, who believe they need to look after the small endangered fish.
We just really wanted this to be an educational centre and highlight the risk we have of losing these precious wee galaxid fish. They're very endangered. They're in a very small area in New Zealand.
Smith and Mackenzie have fenced off Speck Creek from stock to protect the galaxid populations, with the help from local project group Te Aki Maniatoto. They have also created a car park, information panels and a walking track around the sanctuary in an effort to get the community more involved in the local ecology.
It's part of this region's natural history that the region really needs to be proud of and celebrate and work to protect. And so that's why this place is important, because it's a place that people can come to learn more about these fish.
Pupils from St John's School were brought along to the unveiling to learn more about the galaxid and freshwater ecosystems. Te Aki Maniatoto Communications Officer Bill Morris hopes the children will keep what they learned about water conservation in mind when running their own farms in the future. In Kyburn, the South Today.
Taking a ride through the Otago Central Rail Trail has gone back through the ages as a group of cyclists embrace some really good history. The Oamaru Ordinary Cycle Club was on no ordinary tour this week as they dust off some vintage bikes and take them for a spin.
Embarking on a journey back in time, looking like they've come straight from the Victorian era. Members of the Oamaru Ordinary Cycle Club have a long road ahead of them as they set off on their vintage bikes along the Otago Rail Trail on Wednesday morning. The group started their journey in Middlemarch, taking on the trail atop transportation that's a little different than usual.
The oldest, of course, being the penny farthing, the big high wheel with the little trailing wheel. Then we get onto the aptly named safety bicycles. Invented 1890. Most of ours are 1950s, 1960s.
The club has held annual cycle tours since it was formed in 1996, finding they enjoyed the rail trail as it's similar to a 19th century road. And to fully immerse themselves back in time, they've ditched the typical cycling lycra, sporting Victorian style attire, choosing old school style over comfort.
But we think a good stiff upper lip and a jolly good cycling day involves an upright posture, gazing around, looking at the lovely mountains instead of having your nose down by your handlebars and your bum in the air. That you can tick off all those miles, but what sort of achievement is that?
Club member Graham Simpson says the appeal of the penny farthing was the camaraderie with other riders and seeing people's surprised looks as they pedal past. The group is set to finish up their unique journey down the trail on Friday. In Middlemarch, the South Today.
That wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. You can also follow Channel 39 on YouTube and look for the South Today on Facebook to catch our news bulletins on demand. We'll see you again next week. Mā te wā.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.